Have you ever wished you were more of a man than you actually are? Have you ever enjoyed being the underdog because you're afraid of expectations? Or have you ever woke up thinking you were the voice actor of Super Mario? Well, if so, then you might be out of touch. Welcome into another edition of Out of Touch, episode number 6. John Alden with you as always, in a different form than usual, and we'll get into that in a second. But with me also, as always, Dustin Schutte and Mitchell Page. It's we're wrapping up Labor Day weekend here in the I would say the Midwest, but we're not all in the Midwest. Mitchell's obviously on the East Coast, living in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I can't really use that. But I'm cameraless today, and that's why you see me. If you're on the YouTube side of things, you'll see me as a little circular bubble that says Out of Touch on it. But right before we started recording this, my camera decided to shut off and buzz at me like it was going to shoot some sort of laser out at me, and it may have just completely crapped out. But hopefully we'll have that taken care of before we record another episode. But welcome in again, Out of Touch. It's the end of Labor Day weekend. I spent it in Martinsville, Indiana, in a cabin in the woods, watching college football, and I gotta say, it was one of the best little weekend getaways I've taken in a while. I sent photos of where I was at to Dustin and Mitchell, and Dustin was not very happy. At least he was jealous. I could tell that. But and by looking at his facial reaction, I'm sure he's got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, you are the biggest douchebag maybe that I know, because we just talked on the last pod about how I love being in the woods, being out in the wilderness. Now, granted, there are no mountains in Martinsville, Indiana. But to that point, I wasn't really so much mad at you as it was you were like the fourth or fifth person to text me images of like being in a cabin, being on the lake, enjoying drinks, grilling out, whatever people were doing. They decided they were texting me. All this, as you know, when you're a writer, there really are no days off. There are no long weekends. And I worked all 3 days while everybody else was enjoying their 3-day vacation. Now, there's a lot of benefits to working from home, to being a writer, not complaining. Except I'm complaining that when you send me those things and I have to sit in my apartment. So, and Mitchell, by the way, let me do the hand motion over towards him, was moving all weekend. So nobody got a vacation except for John.
That's right. Mitchell, how was your move to Charlotte, from Charleston to Charlotte?
It was long. We moved for 14 hours on Saturday. Drove a 20-foot U-Haul truck. Never done that before. Not very gas efficient, I'll tell you that. Learned that the hard way. But got all our stuff in here, man. We're still getting kind of final things, hanging things on the wall. But I am recording from my desk that is similar to the one that I had. I've got my other monitor. I'm all set up. Games will be played at this seat. I'm really excited. I do want to say, Dustin, that was a nice humble brag about how many friends you have, that they were all texting you.
Look, the people that I mentioned that text me, that's all I get all day. Like 4 or 5 friends. That's max.
I gotta point something out, and it may just be on my end, but does Dustin sound like he inhaled a helium balloon?
No, dude. I think you have.
Oh, do I?
No.
Maybe he doesn't. Mitchell sounds perfectly fine, but for some reason,
I think you got some stuff going on. Martinsville just maybe the camping wasn't so good. Forgot how to operate all your equipment. This probably isn't even recording.
Oh, it's definitely recording. I love how you think I've forgotten how to operate my equipment.
I do kind of like when I go back to listen to this, because I listen to all of our pods, because somebody's got to, right? That I do kind of sound like I'm on a helium balloon now. Like it's just me in this high, squeaky voice for 45 minutes. It'd be amazing.
Like it's obviously not exaggerated to the point where it's super obvious, but there's definitely something. And Dustin is recording on a different device than he normally is on tonight, so maybe there is something that is causing it to sound like that. But if you're listening to the show, whether it be via YouTube or Spotify, let us know if you think Dustin sounds like he's doing the show on a helium balloon. But if that's the case, then let's embrace it. I'm down for the helium balloon pod.
We won't know until after it's posted, number one. And number two, this is just an opportunity for people to be like, oh, well, Dustin always had a balloon. Like,
I'm not even going to lie. You just sounded like you had a helium balloon right there.
Oh, it's coming. Oh, and now everybody's realizing it.
Hold on. Did you just do something to me, John? Am I going to not be able to take him seriously?
I don't know.
Not that I ever have, but.
I hope we get really serious on this pod, and it's just me, Lollipop Guild.
Yeah.
The Lollipop Guild. My goodness. Speaking of commenters, Dustin mentioned we should do something, and I totally agree with him. I'm going to go through a couple of comments from the last few episodes just to shout out some people who've been listening. Maybe we can share our thoughts on things that they shared about the show, or maybe I don't see any questions on here, but I definitely see some comments. One thing
we don't have answers.
Mention, somebody sent this to. This isn't on YouTube. This is through a Twitter DM. Somebody sent that our show is basically it's like Seinfeld. It's about nothing. And I think that's a compliment, right? Even though we don't really have a complete direction.
I would say no, it was not meant as a compliment, but I'm taking it as one.
Oh,
I think it was. I'm going to try to find that word for word.
I think it was meant as a compliment because Seinfeld was like the most popular show on earth for years.
Well, I think it's important.
And it was about nothing.
Did they compare us to Seinfeld, or did they just say your show is about nothing? If they said, Seinfeld, your show is about nothing, that's very different.
No. So I'll say who was the commenter. His name is Forrest. And he said, your podcast reminds me of Seinfeld, a show about nothing, ... LOL.
Forrest.
There we go. Okay, I don't like the LOL at the end.
Yeah.
It's a great compliment. I don't care for the...
What just happened? Did we completely all just get
just
off?
A little slide, but that's okay, Forrest. Okay. We like the first part.
We appreciate you listening, Forrest.
Yeah, of course. This next one's from Tanis. He says, as someone who spent 2 decades in the food industry, I don't get the dreaded man cold. And that's in reference to our discussion last week about I was sick and it took me way too many days to get over something that probably shouldn't have taken me as many days as it did. And ended up having a full-on discussion about our manhood because of it.
Yeah, I just men are soft.
Nothing more to it than that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm soft.
Do have a lot of good things people are saying, a lot of compliments. I'm not going to sit here and toot our own horn the entire time, but I do like when people say the boys are back in town. That was from a guy who calls himself Mr. Indiana. Really appreciate that.
All right.
And then from Jennifer, this is another one. Loved this. Spirits are real. This is in reference to our episode where we shared our thoughts on ghosts and whether they're real. And we all basically told different stories on when we may have encountered the paranormal, which we may not share specific personal stories again, but as we've teased before, we will get into that later on down the road as we get closer to Halloween. But Dustin, you got something?
Well, yeah, let me add to that because I think it was a week or two after we recorded. I came out here just to add another story. I have not touched my porch light 2 months ago, and that this was probably at about the 6-week mark. I came out from my bedroom and the porch light was on. The light switch was flipped up. The porch light was on. I texted Mitchell immediately, and he and Laura are actually going to let me live with them, so I don't have to live with the ghost anymore.
That is true. I have the receipts for that conversation.
So there you go. That's we've gotten some more comments as well, but those are just the ones that are more so specific to things we've talked about, and we'll share some more of those in the future as we continue doing this. Let's get into a couple things of note. First off, Jimmy Buffett passed away this weekend. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Died at 76 years old. Obviously known for being the singer of Margaritaville, among several other hits. But this takes me back to childhood. And not that I'm a major fan of Jimmy Buffett necessarily, but it reminds me of going on vacation with family. Anytime I hear something by him, and specifically songs like Margaritaville, honestly every Jimmy Buffett song has that island feel, even though they're not all Margaritaville. Like I know it's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's a separate song, right? That's the one I always think of when I think of Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
So
I saw a pretty interesting take on Twitter. Go ahead.
No, you're good. There's definitely some sort of delay going on.
This is great podcasting right here. This is great podcasting. I saw an interesting take on Twitter that someone was talking about Jimmy Buffett, like, made it seem like drinking and not working, and he made this look like it was so cool, and he encouraged people not to work and to drink and all this stuff. And her point was, like, hopefully now people will actually get a job or something. I thought that was a pretty interesting take on something that was totally good and harmless and made a lot of people happy. Just a reminder that Twitter, we were talking about in the IU show, can be awesome, but also some people need to just lighten up a little bit. How about a smile every once in a while?
Smile, have a little fun.
Yeah.
Here's something that'll make you smile, though. I actually went in 2017, I think, when I was living in Orlando. And here's it was a solid show. Now, I didn't know, I'm not the biggest Jimmy Buffett fan, but it was an experience. That's what you go for, the experience. But here is what is funny about that. Before the show, maybe like a week or two before the show, obviously downtown Orlando, you have to park in parking garage near the Amway Center, whatever the case is. They sent out an email that said, please do not bring your own sand for your tailgate for the show. So I didn't know this was a thing that people did. Apparently, though, if you were a parrot head or are a parrot head, you brought your own beach sand to the show, which I think is pretty cool. It would have been a disaster if nobody listened to that email.
Yep. So
that reminds me.
Shout out to
I'm telling this story. My mom will love this.
Go ahead,
I'm telling
Mitchell.
this. When I was in like 5th grade, my mom in our neighborhood she throws the greatest parties ever. And one year they had a beach theme party, and she just threw like a bunch of sand in and put it inside our house. So there was a whole room in our house, maybe 2. I don't even know how many rooms had it. But it was a beach party in the middle of Indiana. So we put sand, and the sand was there, I think, for like finding sand in that room for years and years after. But I'll never forget that party. Apparently all the adults, because I was, 10, were just hammered. And I knew nothing about it. I was building sandcastles, having just the time of my life. I know my mom will appreciate that. She gets a shout at every show, so that's hers.
That's right. Shout out to Mama Page, as always. So, yeah, Jimmy Buffett, he ended up, what was it? He had a rare and aggressive skin cancer called Merkel cell carcinoma. The only skin cancer I'm aware of is melanoma. That's because I'm not in the medical field. But as he passed away, apparently Paul McCartney visited Jimmy Buffett's house and performed for him and his family before, I guess, he finally passed away. So cool on Paul McCartney of the Beatles to do that. So yeah, Jimmy Buffett, another musician. We've had a lot of musicians pass away at least legendary musicians pass away in the last several years. And we're just going to keep seeing more of that because a new generation comes in and one has to leave. And it's I don't know why you're all reacting like that. It's just the way things are.
That's the circle of life, baby.
Right. Yeah, you act like it's a new way, like they're kicking them out. Like the new musicians aren't killing off the old musicians. That's just how life works. That happens to everybody, man.
Yeah, those streets are getting dangerous, man.
Yeah, it's like so there's too many new musicians, and so they have to die to make room for the new ones.
It was sounding like it was like a new show coming in on Broadway, and they were just like nudging Wicked off the stage. Is how you kind of address that.
Hey, in Hollywood, you never know. There's some shady things that go on in Hollywood. You never know if people are causing
that.
Especially with the
That is
whenever.
true.
And I don't want to say that people who were supposedly who supposedly died of suicide that they didn't do that, but I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about certain, especially like Robin Williams and people who supposedly killed themselves that may or may not have actually done that. I'm not the kind of person who have actually investigated that, so I'm not going to be able to give you a definitive answer on that. But it's weird what goes on in Hollywood, and obviously Jimmy Buffett isn't a part of this, but we somehow got around to it.
I think you brought us here.
You never know where I'm going to bring us.
That's
You never know
true.
where I'm going to bring us. All right. Speaking of things, I bet you didn't see this. The next couple things, I've got some interesting things on the docket before we had to let Mitchell go here in about 20 minutes or so. But the Golden Bachelor. Have y'all heard of the Golden Bachelor? Surely, if you watched college football this weekend, you saw plenty of commercials for what is a new spinoff of The Bachelor called the Golden Bachelor. And for those of you who don't know what it is, this spinoff is basically taking people who are in their I hate to say it like this, but their last stage of dating life, people in their 50s or 60s, and they're trying, it's a last chance for love for them. And this is, hold on, I know you're all reacting like I said something completely off base, but that's what one of the people even say in the commercial. They say, this is my last chapter. It's going to be the best chapter. So who am I to? Yeah, so I'm not just pulling this out of my behind.
Yeah, it's just shocking to hear that. Like, there's probably a lot of people that listen to this that are in their 50s and 60s feeling like, I'm in the prime of my life, baby. But the way that
maybe they are.
promote that show, the way they promote the show is like, it's literally do or die, is what that show felt like. It was like the biggest thing that would ever happen to them, which is pretty crazy. I can tell you it's the talk. So I'm in cosmetics and aesthetics, which I think we talked about a little, but it's certainly the talk of med spas, plastic surgery centers. They're all talking about like, how does this 65-year-old dude look like he's 40? And so I've been hearing about this show long before this weekend, how excited people were for it. I don't understand the Bachelor craze, but they're just die hard, man. That is a gold mine. No pun intended.
I don't that's a good call right there. I don't really get it either. You know what's weird? It's like the overlap, and we're obviously all football fans, but the overlap between like the number of people that watch and cover college football and also watch and cover either The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, it's bizarre. I think it's because of the drama, but I don't know. Is this going to have like I don't know. I am not really interested in it. Do what you got to do, like obviously in terms of the show, and like you said, it's probably going to draw a lot of interest. It's probably going to seem a little bit more Hallmarky too, wouldn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
As opposed to just the regular Bachelor or Bachelorette.
Well, in the Bachelor, Bachelorette, aren't they just making it to the late stages and then they go off and do their thing? I don't know. I don't know if
I have no idea.
I don't know if that's necessarily
it's one of those things. I told my wife this weekend, she's excited and wants to watch the show. I don't think it's going to do well. There's only so many different spinoffs you can do of a show, and maybe it's funny, maybe it's got the drama. I don't know. Maybe it will end up being successful. I don't think it will. Here's the thing. I think it'll do good enough, but I don't think it's going to be like as big as The Bachelor kind of thing.
No, you're correct on that. But here's what's going to happen, because they're not going to address it. I don't think it's not going to be the same show as The Bachelor. This is going to be a more sentimental, heartfelt type of show, as opposed to, like, I feel like The Bachelor and Bachelorette is absolute chaos. Throw all your worst fears about dating and then throw them into a giant house. Sounds fun, right? I think this is going to be more sentimental. I think it's going to be more emotional, and they're going to play up on that aspect of people and their emotions. And I think that's why it will be successful. You're right. It's not going to be as successful as the original, but I just don't think it's going to play up on the drama. I don't see that
I think
happening.
you're right. That's a really good take. I think that's probably fairly accurate, especially the way that they're kind of selling it when they advertise it.
Could you imagine if it is just like this massive? If you could just a massive pool party. Like we expect to go in with like having an adult conversation. They are at like a steakhouse. That's what I'm envisioning. Like they just or something. No, it's a massive like wild pool party. It is actually a wilder version of The Bachelor. Could you imagine?
It might be pretty funny. I don't know. I think that kind of show would be horrendous. It might make for a good parody piece on YouTube or something like that, but that wouldn't be a good TV show.
I have something controversial, but I'm not gonna say it.
No, say it. Unless it's something that's going to completely knock somebody's socks off, say it. Say the controversial.
No, yeah, I won't do that, but I would argue that there's potential for more drama. Like
all the baggage they have.
Yeah, and these are people that have a lot of experiences. They've got all kinds of stuff going on. They've marketed it as this literally do or die. Like, this is my last chance. They literally have said that. And like, you look at the original Bachelor, like all the dudes, all the girls are good looking, whatever. If the show doesn't work, the only reason I got to go to Vienna, Austria is the guy that took my position went on to The Bachelor, Andrew Spencer. So I've kind of watched how he didn't win.
Is that timeout? That's a true story?
Yeah, I told you that.
No.
Yes.
This is the first I'm learning of this. This is the first weird. This is breaking news right here. Okay.
Yeah, so I have a weird connection to The Bachelor. I watched not all, but a lot of the episodes that Andrew was in at 4 a.m., and Laura can attest, at 4 a.m. in Austria on like hijacked streaming. But yeah, he was going to play for the Vienna Vikings, and I'd been working, eating chips and not running for 3 years. Like, I had no business playing football. I was fat, slow, and didn't really have any interest in getting hit. But I played really well in Germany, and the season was starting in like a month, and Andrew got a call from The Bachelor and said, hey, we want you to be on the show. So he just dipped, went, filmed it. They needed somebody to replace him, so I came over, and so I've kind of followed, and that was a whole nother story after he came back. But I've followed how he does and what his life is like now that he's been on the show. And he was pretty successful. I think a lot of people liked him, but he obviously didn't win, right? He didn't get the girl at the end. But now he's dating a new girl, and like he's 27, and he's got all kinds of stuff in front of him. And at least the way they're portraying this Golden Bachelor, it feels like there's some, like, this is it. I have to get this dude, or that's it for me. And I think that can lead to some infighting and some digging. These are experienced ladies that have got some probably experience being mean in some capacity. I think that it's going to be, I think it'll be more interesting than the original Bachelor, just because of there could be some, I won't say all of the girls will be like this. I think the ones at the end will not be like this, but early on, I bet you could see some desperation, and that could lead to some hilarity if they let it.
So are you planning on watching this? You seem pretty excited. Are you going to watch this?
I think I just talked myself into it. When we started this, I would have said no, but now I don't know.
Well, there you have it. The Golden Bachelor.
What channel is it even on? NBC?
It's on ABC, I believe.
Is it on ABC? ABC, okay. Well, that's a good start.
Dustin, one more. You have something else about this real quick?
I think that's a really interesting take. And here's the other thing that I'll add on to this, and we can move on, is that I do feel like I agree with you. I think the people at the end, maybe they'll go the sentimental, emotional route towards the end of the show. But to Mitchell's point, these TV executives probably do want a little bit of drama. So they might pick out some people that are like, we need to create some drama. These are going to be on the show along with these people we think will actually be strong. Contestants, lovers, I don't know what the terminology would be.
Yeah, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Drama has sold on Bachelor for however long it's been running. Yeah, it's not broken.
It's a great point.
That's right. It isn't broken, so we aren't going to fix it. All right. No. Another thing that my wife brought to my attention this weekend. Are you all familiar with the trend going on social media called girl math? Have you heard of girl math? Do you know what that is? Have you heard that term before?
No, this is new to me.
No, but I don't like it.
Girl math is a thing that people use to justify certain purchases. And it's not meant to be like a stereotype thing. It's meant to just be fun and stuff like that. But I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm curious if you think this makes sense. So according to girl math, this checks out, so to speak. If you pay for something in cash, it's technically free. What are your thoughts on that? Is that true?
That's false? Dustin. That's Dustin. What that is?
Yeah, it's Dustin math.
That's Dustin math. That's boy math. If I have cash, then I don't see that number in my bank account. That's free money.
Mitchell, 100%. That's. Are you on board with that?
I'm gonna be honest. I cut out. My internet went out. One more time.
Did you hear what? Okay, so if you pay for something in cash. If you pay for something in cash, it is technically free. That's part of this phenomenon, if you want to call it that, called girl math. Does that make sense? If you pay for something in cash, it is technically free.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this. I'm pretty I know where the money's going, aren't you? All the time. Yeah.
So do I.
I don't carry cash except for at the golf course. And that's not very much. So I would be curious what Laura thinks, my wife, Laura, about that. But I've got some more examples. That was just one example.
Yeah.
So if you buy something online for $50 and you're going to have to pay $20 worth in shipping, but if you buy $100 of product online and your shipping is free.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to pay the extra $50? Are you losing money if you don't do that? Did I explain that correctly? I may have done.
Yeah. That's just tough for me to even listen to be honest.
So you buy something online for $50. I'm just going to restart it one more time. $50 online, you have to pay $20 in shipping. But you can get your shipping for free if you spend $100 online instead. According to girl math logic, you are losing money if you don't spend that extra $50 and avoid paying shipping. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. See, you guys are asking this to me. I'm probably going to agree with everything on here. So this makes it Dustin boy math or whatever you want to call it.
You almost want to just call it Gen Z / millennial math. I know you're not Generation Z.
That would be the better way. But so here's my thinking is I'm paying $20. I don't look at it as I'm paying an extra $50. $20 for shipping. You're paying for nothing. That's nothing. So you might as well spend the extra, what would end up being an extra $30 to at least get stuff.
I love how Mitchell is on the other side of this. I love it. He looks so ashamed right now.
Do I even have to respond to that?
Yes, you do.
That's like saying I bought a $1,000 thing, but it was 50% off. So I saved $500. No, you didn't. You spent $500 is what you did. There's no saving. Like, oh, it was on sale. It was $100, but it was 20% off. So I saved us $20. No, you spent $80. That's what happened. I
love it.
My brain does not compute that. Like,
wait, can I preface this? Hold on. Let me preface this by saying What I'm saying is I agree with what they are saying. I don't do it very often. It's not, but if I do it, like this is how I justify it. I don't purchase stuff in necessities very frequently. Like I don't buy new clothes. I don't buy things to like. I don't buy a lot of things. But if I do buy them, or I use cash, this is exactly how I justify it. So that's the point of this. All right, continue, John. Now that I've taken over the microphone.
I've got another example, and I would love. I'm loving the reactions between these. So let's just say you prepay $15 into like a Starbucks account. When you go to Starbucks and you make your purchases through that account, is that free money? According to girl math, it is.
No,
because you've already paid that. You've already put that in.
Right. Okay. Right. So yeah, I don't agree with that one.
I think it depends.
Right, what about go ahead.
This depends.
So Mitchell might have a different.
An upset.
Okay, go ahead.
No, not for me. And I'm lucky. Laura does not do this, but I've heard situations where guy or girl puts money in. Other guy or girl that did not put the money in now sees that as free money to them. When they go in the situation, it's free to them.
Oh.
So if you're going to use that situation and take advantage, I guess it is free. But yeah, I think we know where I lie on this.
One more. And this one might be the most obvious of them all. Anything less than $5 is technically free.
Oof. What is it?
Oof.
Maybe it's not that obvious. Anything less than $5 is technically free.
Now,
yeah, I think it matters what it is.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because like I'm not paying for a Snickers bar, but if I can get a sleeve of golf balls for $4.95, that's a good deal.
That is so funny.
So like free throw, but
that's
it's not
exactly
free.
what I was using. That's so funny.
Golf balls? I knew.
Yes.
I figured.
I'm like, if I go in and get a Reese's and it's $4.59 when I know it's usually $3.19, I'm not buying that. But if a sleeve of golf balls is $4.99, I don't care what they are. If I need them, I'm going to buy them, and it's no big deal.
But it's not, it's not free, though. You're still paying $5 or $4.99.
No, but it's necessary.
Okay. So
I won't even look at the price.
I think it depends.
Mitchell, I did want to save a little bit of time, unless it's going to take longer than 5 minutes. But are you ready to share your official pregame football routine? Are you able to do that to close out the show?
Yeah. So it's I'll be quick, but it has definitely morphed over the years. And in week 1, I was not able to do it because, as we talked about, I was on the road. I had the game playing on the radio, but could not watch every snap. So I didn't feel like I was doing them justice if I went through my whole routine and then left them when the kick started, right? When they kicked off. I can't do that. So in college, it was much more structured. It was down to the minute, right? We would get there. It even started at the hotel. I would wake up in the morning. We had our walkthroughs, had all our stuff. I would read my book for, I think it was like 45 minutes, depending on when the game was. The noon games, I would have to alter because we got up at 6:30 and were in meetings until we left at 9 or whatever. But any 3:30 kicks, late kicks, I'd read my book. Typically, I'd had some chicken fingers left over from the night before at snack, munch on those, watch. We didn't even really watch College Game Day, mostly because if they were talking about Indiana, typically they were talking crap about Indiana, so I didn't want to listen to that. But there was all kinds of things that were structured. I had a certain way. We had these play sheet tests. Coach Johns would give us, I think, 20 plays that we had to draw out what every receiver on each play was doing. And I had a certain way that I would fill those out. I would start with the hard one, then go to the easy one, hard, easy. And that's how I got my brain working. And I was we called it closing the gap between practice and the game. So I would start off slow, didn't want to just get tired, mentally tired early, and then we get to the stadium. And first thing I would do, no matter what, get in the hot tub. That was the first thing I did, hot tub for like 3 minutes, warm my body up, and then I would jump into the cold tub, full submersion, cannonball in there, wake your body up, and then back in the hot tub, go back out. And I had a certain way that I would put on my pants, go out early. Like, this was a thing. And I could just do this. They were scripted to the minute. If you gave me like our kicks at 3:30, this is when call it a home game, I could kind of map out, maybe not exactly to the minute, but pretty much what I was doing. Now, typically, it's obviously a little bit different, but it always starts, I want to get a workout in the morning. Typically, it's a run. I go out, run, and in my mind, I'm getting myself loose to be able to yell at the TV. That's what I'm getting myself loose for. Getting myself loose for that.
Of course.
After I've done some sweating, we'll eat, get kind of the food that I like to eat, which is very American and simple and 5-year-old, if you want to know. Very simple food, nothing fancy. Then I'll watch highlights. And this is pretty, what's the word when you think about yourself first? Narcissistic?
Egotistical.
This is pretty narcissistic, what I do. But typically, it starts with watching the highlights of my 2 seasons that I actually got to play at Indiana, just to get me in the mindset of actually being there. And then I'll watch some highlights of the full games, depending on when Indiana kicks, typically 12 or 3:30. I've kind of I'm watching some of the other games or other teams' games so I can get a feel for what we can expect, because I'm not somebody that's watching every game on the weekend. Like, I don't care what Nebraska's doing unless we're playing Nebraska. So I'll find out who are their guys, what do we have to do, what are we looking for? And this continues, and I'm starting to watch more and more aggressively. I'm closing the gap from my work week to the game. I'm wired in a weird way that I think about Indiana in Saturday afternoon way more than I should, and it's way too important to me, but it matters to me. I have a better week when they play well. So I want to make sure that I put myself in the best position to feel good, because I believe that there's some kind of energy, and you can call it whatever you want, but as somebody that's put on the same uniforms that they did, played in the same stadium that they did, if I feel good, there's just going to be a little bit that floats down to them, and they're going to feel good. And I've thought that way since the day that I left campus, and I still do. And it was impossible for me yesterday or on Saturday to not have that. But then they all of a sudden played phenomenal, so maybe I should stop doing that.
So now you're going to retire the rituals, what you're saying.
Yeah, and maybe I'll next week's Friday night. That makes it tough because I got work. But maybe for the Louisville game, I'll take some videos of stuff that I'm doing. Maybe every 30 minutes, let you guys know, hey, this is the time for this.
Like a play-by-play.
Yes, and I'm not going to do it every 10 seconds, but maybe every 30 minutes, especially if it's a 3:30 kick. We'll have plenty of time to get that build up.
I know we've got to let Mitchell go. We're up against time, but I do have 2 quick questions. Number 1, what's your favorite highlight of yourself to watch?
Okay, this is so narcissistic, but if you go on YouTube and you type in Mitchell Page, Western Kentucky, IU, those 5 words, there's a video of my first punt return for a touchdown against Western Kentucky, and it's from the field. And it's not edited. There's no music in the background, nothing to it. It's just somebody on what looks like a phone videoing the whole snap to kick, and they get a great view of me. And it's not even about me running down the sideline, running into the end zone. The audio of the clip you can hear the crowd. I make the first guy miss, they get a little louder. Then I make the second guy miss, and they're getting a little louder. And then I burst out to the sideline, and the place erupts. And it continues going crazy as I'm running down the sideline. It's my favorite. That's like 35 seconds maybe. But if you've never watched it, just watch it for the audio because it's a really, really cool angle.
That's cool.
I think a pretty cool play.
That's cool.
Second question is, when you go back and watch those highlights, do you actually see it video, or does your mind go back to when you were actually going through the play?
I see it in my eyes.
Okay.
Everything's out of my eyes.
That's something we'll never be able to experience. That's pretty awesome.
Right, exactly. That's why I was curious. Like, I feel like if that was me, I feel like the way my brain works, I would go back to that moment. So I was curious if you actually watch it, or if you, as soon as you hit play, if your mind goes back to what your eyes saw when you're running that touch.
I can picture it. It was a bomb kick. I'm looking up. I take one peek. I can still see it out of my eyes. They had flared, but the kid outkicked his coverage. I think it was Simi Cobbs missed his guy early, but he was a linebacker, so he wasn't super fast, and I can still see him screaming. I think he was number 54, maybe, something like that. He's a higher number, and I can see him. You see my head take one last peek down before the ball gets there to feel his leverage. I can still see it in my eyes. I take my last look up. I can feel him going to my right, so I quick hop step him. Don't even need a block. He's already leaning. I go right around him. Then I can see Andre Booker riding his guy. He's not going to cut him off because it was a what the heck is it called? A wall return to the right. I can see that Andre's not going to get his guy for me to be able to get to the wall. So I can see him pushing up. I know I've got to set him, go inside, get back outside, and I can still see Luke Timian running right in front of me on the left. He was way faster than me. That's like the funniest part of the clip is everybody on the field is just catching me. But thank God they're all on my team. I just wasn't fast enough to outrun them. But I can still see Luke Timian. And then in the video, if you watch it from the top, you see Andre Booker, who was walling his guy, but I just kind of used him in a weird way. He was one of the fastest kids on the team. He just hawks me down out of nowhere, comes blazing on this screen. And Andre was the first one celebrating with me in the end zone. It was just awesome. I can remember how it smelled. It's just crazy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we finally got to hear the pregame routine and how that highlight specifically is a major part of it. And so, yeah, we've been teasing that since the beginning of the show. We finally got to hear the inside scoop on how that works. So, but we're going to go ahead. Mitchell's got a clock out. Oh, go ahead. You got something else?
There's a funny one. I did not make this highlight. This is the kickoff. The punt return is the first one. The second one is one that somebody else made. It's like dope edits or something. But that one always makes me laugh because it is the most reckless song that they chose for this highlight. They say 100 curse words in the first 50 words of the song. Like, it is just ridiculous. Like, my background in that song just could not be more far apart. So that's another funny one if you're checking it out.
I'm definitely gonna go watch that Western Kentucky one here.
It's awesome.
I'm sure I saw it, but it's been a long time since I've, checked out those highlights. But
it should be a long time. You should not be. If anyone's going back and watching those, find something better to do. There's nothing in those highlights. But it does make an old man feel good when I get to watch them on Saturday. So I think that's it for me.
That is it for you. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Mitchell, thanks for obviously making time to do this tonight, even though you've got some dinner plans, right? That's where you're heading out to do?
Oh, yeah. We're just moved into Huntersville, North Carolina, and we're going to go out downtown, check it out.
So there you go. Yeah. So this has been another edition of Out of Touch. Remember, we are partnered with Hoosier Illustrated now, and the first post-game reaction show should be available on HoosierIllustrated.com. So check that out to hear all of our thoughts, specifically Mitchell and Dustin's thoughts on Indiana's Week 1 loss to Ohio State and we have some good things to say, even though they got their butts beat. It wasn't the same kind of beatdown that Indiana normally endures from Ohio State. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. For myself, excuse me, and I'm going to use this real quick. For Mitchell Page and Dustin Schutte, I'm John Alden, and we'll be out of touch till next Wednesday at 12:30 or whenever it drops. So, we'll see you next time.